All right, we are recording and good to go.
Got it. Okay. Avast me hearties, and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I be your captain, Charlie the Professor Esser. And with me, as always, is me first mate and skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey, welcome, Mozz. In a world of capes and lunatics, of gods and monsters, picks and crows, there is a hero who must rise, with other heroes with him. This is Willow, Season 1, Episode 7, Beyond the Shattered Sea. Our heroes finally reach the place where all maps end, the infinite expanse of the Shattered Sea. Our director this week is Jamie Childs. Our writers are Julie Cooperman, who gets her written by, along with Bob Dolman, who also gets it written by, and Jonathan Kasdan, also getting it written by. They're just all writing on this. Jonathan Kasdan, of course, gets her developed by, and George Lucas is sitting on his big pile of money because these are characters based on his creations. All right. This is so. I wasn't sure what the Shattered Sea was going to be. I kind of find it fascinating that it is a very shallow salt flat that is also much like we saw in the caves, where it's this liquid, but it clearly has like a sheet over it of something that's like some kind of hardened salt or volcanic glass, which makes me kind of wonder, in a weird way, is this a apocalyptic adventure?
Oh, interesting. Where the world has regressed back to needing magic to fulfill the void that scientific discovery that has been lost.
I mean, maybe, yeah. It's just very interesting because I was noticing that because we get modern rock at the end of all of these.
Modern what?
Rock and roll, the end songs.
Yeah. And some of the terminology. I mean, I know a lot of it is tongue in cheek, but sometimes it really pulls me out. Like modern slang terms, and it's like, oh, that's not where we are.
Well, I guess where we are is a very interesting question because where we are, and it's sort of like there is a strong feel of a D&D campaign to it, and I feel that could be intentional.
Oh yeah.
And definitely it's a nice aspect of it. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy what story they're telling with this. But the Shattered Sea really is interesting, expressly because it is just a fairy tale design. It is a thing that, yes, we could create a story where it is, this post-apocalyptic world where the earth is glazed, not unlike Mandalore. But I actually think that there's a secondary aspect, which is that, no, this is just a fantasy world. And of course you can walk across the sea, because how else are you going to get there, And what's fascinating is that not only can you walk across the sea, you can get a mudmander to pull you across the Shattered Sea, which shows that the Shattered Sea, say that 5 times fast. The Shattered Sea has both deep parts and shallow parts, and it's almost like you kind of feel like, man, every step it's going to be a risk which one you're going to get. But I think that also just adds to the adventure of it.
Right. I think it. I mean, like when Kit falls into it, she sees Eric and she's about to touch him when she gets pulled out. Now, I wonder if she had actually gone and touched him, would the magic have transported him back with them as well, and the whole adventure could have been solved before it got afoot?
I mean, that's the interesting question. Would she have been pulled to the other side, to the immemorial city, or would he have been brought back to their side? I think that's the question that never gets answered.
So he might have already been booby trapped with magic.
Yeah, well, I mean, clearly because he's going through the magical water portal, and that's the other thing. That again, it's the thing that sort of makes it not seem like a post-apocalyptic nightmare. That there's just real magic here. That these are magical waters that are connected. And pulling this magic out of the earth, out of the water, is what gives things their connection. But yeah, you're right because that actually, because I'm getting ahead of myself getting to the Shattered Sea, because we don't get to the Shattered Sea yet, because first we do have to save Kit, and she's again very mad because she saw Eric, and it just seems like every time she feels like she's about to save someone she loves, she gets pulled out of it, and she feels like people are, because they wouldn't let her go in to find her father in fighting the worm, because the father went into the worm to fight him. Likewise with, now she sees her brother, she can almost reach him, and then Willow, well, not Willow, but Allura down and pulls her back, and she never gets the chance. But they do get to the Shattered Sea. They do start to the long walk, and we get a very which is honestly, I think the scene with the innkeeper at the very beginning is very interesting. Because first off, okay, so if you don't know, Jim Henson did a series called The Storyteller, and it just really reminded me. And of course, Jim Henson was actually very active in work on the original Willow as well. So, but the old soldier who is lost and sort of just sits in the room telling the stories because time has no meaning anymore. Is there a problem?
No, it's just something's really loud in the background.
Oh,
it's coming.
1 second.
Yeah.
No, that's just. Yeah, that was just my eldest giggling. They're having a very fun time talking to their friends online. So.
Oh, great.
Yes, but it being a kid and being online, it's fun. But anyway, that is one of the things when this guy's here and they're getting together and he's feeding them the worms, and of course, everyone's a little confused by that, but then again, hey, you were in the middle of the Shattered Sea. What do you think there is to eat here?
Borman eats the worms, no problem.
Yeah, well, he's a warrior, man.
He's a survivor, right?
Yes.
He escaped in a tub full of poop. Worms are no difference to him.
Yeah, it's like Cleon Ga, it's a little spicy, but you get used to it.
Right.
Although I get the feeling this was not a spicy guy. This was probably more like a salty dish, and
briny.
Briny. Yeah, well, hey, if you got brine, you might as well brine it. But yeah, and you can see the effects of the mist and the Shattered Sea, which is clearly meant to be this thing that just pulls you in and confuses you, which is why no one gets across it, because it's a strange magical land, and you can't just walk past it. You have to, in some ways, earn your passage with your focus, with your dedication.
And we find out that Graydon has magic in him too. A considerable amount, so it seems.
Yes, well, that is an interesting question that we get in this, and we get in this idea of his grandmother, who is the one who is imparting wisdom to him as a young child and says, play the flute always makes things better, and all these kind of stuff. And when that is something that we get when we do get the big chase scene, he just starts throwing thunderbolts too, because he saw how you do it. You just focus and believe.
And all he needed was somebody to believe in him, right? Like Willow told him, it's in you. He's like, yeah. And that was kind of cool. What I thought was really cool about it was, as ignited as his curiosity was about it, he's immediately like, man, I got to train to get better. And that feeling was infectious. And now all of a sudden, Elora sees like, oh, there's competition. There's another magic person here. Oh, man. And all of a sudden, she's like, oh, I should be practicing. And then Kit's like, I should be practicing. And it caught like wildfire. And I feel like that's his strength, Graydon.
Yes. Although I do think that, and again, this is where I get back to, what is the worm that infects him? The evil magic that was in him as a child, is that in him and he's fighting it, or is it in him? And it's not that it's evil, it's just that it's just the raw power, and raw power is always going to present itself as destructive. And that is the point of the order and the rules of magic, because we do get some of that in this episode as well. When we cut back to Eric and the woman who's clearly the crone, I don't think that was a big reveal. It's not officially revealed until the end, but we can definitely see that this woman is up to something. Up to something not good, up to something bad. But at the same time, nothing she says pushes the boundaries,
Right.
But
she almost makes you start thinking, does she have a plight that we should consider? I don't think so, but it does make you second guess yourself for a second.
Yes. Well, when we saw the Bone Reavers, it's the same idea. And it is sort of this interesting question about people who wish to live free. And when you say you wish to live free, does that mean you want to be free to live your life, or does it mean you want to be free to take other people's lives? And
right. If everybody gets to be free, does that person over there that wants to take over everything, are they free to do whatever they want to? Is that part of it?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what does freedom mean? And should freedom be its own reward? I guess it's because we even see this in the legends, and this is where we're getting into the legends of Kashmir and the legends of where these things come from. And it really is this idea of, there are these wild witches, and this idea that you can have the power without the rules. You can have the rules-free wishes, as they would say on Fairly Odd Parents, just the idea of having this power, but you don't have to follow the rules. But at the same time, the rules are very important, expressly because they're how we keep our distance from a power that could very easily overwhelm us and make us into a worse version of ourselves. At least I think that's possibly what they're going for and what the implication is, or maybe not, because that's the thing. Even when we get to the next episode and we get to a resolution, and the resolution seems straightforward, I still feel there's a part of it that's like, you have to. Well, yeah. Well, we saw when we'll get to that, but we do see that, yes, it's very much set up for a season 2. I hope we get a season 2. Like I said, my biggest worry is that this was a really good show that just wasn't controversial enough, to get people interested. And so I hope that it starts picking up followers. Hopefully this show will help. If you're listening to the show, go watch the show. It's only 8 episodes, guys. You can knock that out real quick, and you will be. I hope you will be pleasantly surprised. But I love when they have the Mudmander and the Mudmander is pulling their thing, and of course, prior to that, the whole interesting aspect of that is that they realize, and I believe it's and I believe again it's Graydon who realizes that the innkeeper is just trying to keep us here, and he's trying to keep us here because the minions are coming for us.
Right.
And once he realizes what's going on, he frees the Mudmander. He gets everyone onto it. They get chased. That's where we get the big magic battle and the big sword battle, and that's when we get to the point where they get to an island.
Yeah,
and again,
it's interesting though. I mean, like debating whether or not Graydon has darkness in him or light, but like a simple creature, right, was able to connect with him and was able to trust him and be like, oh, this is a good soul. Right. So that leads me to believe that he does have good in him. He's fighting some demons, certainly, that have possibly latched themselves onto him. But I think that might be two separate entities.
And well, that's the thing. Well, actually, what I think is that there's good and evil inside all of us. And
right. Fair enough. Yeah.
That's the real lesson.
Yeah.
It's not about, and to be fair, that is the worm seeks to devour all. And that is the problem with the worm. But it doesn't mean that the worm doesn't have a place in the structure of the universe. It just means because you need that being that comes and wipes away what was so that something new can grow. You need literally the worms to eat the bodies to replenish the soil so that the new grass can grow and the new creatures can eat the grass. That if you don't have that rot and decay, the world falls apart. It doesn't make sense anymore, and it doesn't serve its own purpose. To have a truly good life, you need to have balance, and within that, you need to also be careful not to fall into the opposite end of it, where you are trying to restrict everything too much.
Right.
But that isn't
not the good kind,
Yeah. It's a complex thing, my friend. That's why enlightenment is hard. So
I love that we get the reconciliation between Kit and Elora.
Yeah.
And she finally comes to terms with that. And the coolest thing is at the end when she's getting her off the boat and Kit goes, "My lady." Like she's, I pledge fealty or whatever,
Yes.
But she knew her place and she was okay with that. That was cool.
Yeah. And I did like Borman's thing with the armor, and just, he doesn't want to use it. And I love the fact that he doesn't want to use it expressly because he knows it's not going to work.
Right.
And it's like, he knows no matter what he does, he's not going to be the hero of this story.
Right, but if he doesn't do it, he doesn't have to confront that fact yet.
Exactly.
So right now, I can still have that warm blanket of this fantasy.
Yeah.
Just give me 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. I'll get up. He's just hitting the snooze button.
And that is perhaps maybe even the deeper aspect of this, is that we all live in this fantasy. It is a fantasy, but there's a reality underneath the fantasy that we are going to have to deal with. And there are rules to how this fantasy is portraying itself and playing out. When Graydon lets the Mudmander go, I really like that. Because again, it is this, so here's where it gets
his heart and where his intentions are.
It speaks to his heart, but it also speaks to this fear of serving the purpose. And what I mean by that is, like, what we do see as this goes on is that you have to have a purpose. You have to have a reason you're fighting. You have to have people you're fighting for. And if you don't have that, what do you really have? And honestly, it's a Mudmander. I don't think I don't think it signed up for this. This was an enslaved Mudmander to start, so I think letting the Mudmander go is the good thing. But when everyone starts to panic, it's like, we're all dying here, and this was maybe the thing that could have gotten us closer. And now we have to wander in the mists. And as we see wandering in the mists, it's not recommended by by your local doctors.
Right.
It is actually a very difficult thing. And we see, people starting to get forgetful, people getting influenced. And we do see, again, in the training montage, which I do like, because again, we need that training montage to explain a lot of the mechanics that we're going to see later, including that Allura knows the necrotic spells.
Right.
And, that, the crone taught it to her when she was in the castle.
Oh, I thought she said she just saw a book and learned it. I didn't necessarily think that she communicated with the crone. Did she?
Well, she does tell. Okay, well, what she does tell is she tells. Oh, you know what I think it was? I think when she's in the castle, she learned it from a book.
Yeah,
She also does communicate with the crone.
Oh,
because that's how she knows what Willow's vision was.
Oh, right.
And she just basically, I've known the whole time. I've known since then that this is what you are afraid of, and this is what we're worried about. And I understand that is scary because it's about me. That's why I'm scared.
Yeah. The other thing about her training montage I thought was cool was like Willow gets her to understand that she has to find some comfort with her own darkness if she's going to reach the places of emotion that she's going to need to express these spells in a way that'll be effective.
Exactly, because, and it comes back to this, the idea that this power comes from that change in the universe, that just part of the flow of power is part of the flow from life to death. And so within this moment, she has to be willing to understand, how things live and how things die, and not be afraid to let things die. Because
or to find that place within herself that gives her the permission to be that powerful, right? And sometimes you need like that fight or flight response in your spirit as much as in your body to reveal that sort of power.
Well, I think that there's an aspect of it too that is literally the idea that so as an example, I don't know if you watched the TV show Ghosts.
No.
Okay. It's a very good TV show, highly recommended. It's on CBS. It's a sitcom about ghosts. And they, in the last episode, basically this one character who's one of the ghosts finds out that his grandson was in a car accident and is in critical condition. And he makes the choice to sell his soul to a ghost in that episode who has come back from hell to save his grandson. Of course, it turns out it's all a ruse and all this nonsense, yada yada yada, as stories go. But it is this idea that how often we will gladly walk into evil to save someone we love, and evil knows that and will exploit that. And so if you say, and again, to bring it back to other things, like why does Peter Parker make a deal with Mephisto to rewrite reality and wipe out his marriage? Because Peter Parker can't let his aunt die. And granted, his aunt is 100. And at a certain point, you've got to be willing to say, you know what? I'm not going to make a deal with the devil just to save this person. But already
100 years, do you think she wants to go home now? Like, Let her,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, well, exactly. This and for what it's worth, that it's like after that happens, that's when Aunt May starts getting younger and becomes hot Aunt May, and it's honestly there are fan theories out the wazoo about this stuff. So and Lilith Hellfire will be the first to tell you that Uncle Ben was Mephisto all along. But yes,
Ooh.
it's all
Oh,
connected,
that's
Mozz.
interesting. Oh man, that would be so cool. Oh my god.
I know, and and that
Mm.
then her argument is that's why she doesn't want that's why Mephisto doesn't want Aunt May to die, because he doesn't want her coming back to hell with him. He said don't stick
Oh
out
man.
there.
Oh,
But
that's
anyway,
great.
that's Lilith's fan theory.
That's really
Although
good.
it does open up an interesting aspect of the entire idea of going to darkness and going to that place. And I think we'll touch on this a bit next episode. But the idea that it has to be your willingness. It only has power over you if you give it power.
Mm.
If you don't give it power, it can't really pull you. Which means at any point you just gotta be willing to say, "Nah, that's fine. I'm done," and I deny that you have power over me, and walk away. And but of course the demons build themselves up to be so. Look how scary I am. You have no power here. It's like, really? Well, how do I know that? So that's the interesting question. That is the debate. But we do get to the edge of the world, seemingly, although not an edge, just a waterfall. And we knew that the shattered sea, and maybe this is why it's shattered, and why it does have these really shallow spots. It's because this water is constantly flowing down into this big crevasse, going somewhere. And we see that Allura and Kit are the ones who are standing there, and they just don't want to believe that we just have to turn around. There is no immemorial city. What do we do now? And they decide to, as they say, make a leap of faith. I liked this.
I love it. They're finally understanding their place in the grand scheme of things, and they've come to terms with it.
Well, I think even more than that, they're also recognizing the inherent magicalness of this world. And this is, I think, one of the things that I think it's very easy to forget, that this world, especially for these young people were raised in a world where magic was anathema, where magic was not allowed, where the worm, yes, tried to do something evil and take over the world. And here, they stand aware that they have been experiencing magic that they did not even know existed. And they have found that this magic flows, and that the laws of physics of this world seem to favor adventure and things that shouldn't be but are,
and bravery.
Well, yes, definitely bravery. The braver you are, if you're not willing to knock on the door, you will never enter into the castle. But if you the old meme about I just watched my DM meme. I just watched my players spend an hour and a half looking for traps and trying to decode a lock, and I tried to figure. And the door wasn't even locked. It just had to open the door. It was just a door, And I think that there is maybe even an argument to be made in that so much of what everyone is doing is based on they're trying to second guess it, but that as part of the fantasy, you just have to embrace the fantasy and make the leap. Any final thoughts on tonight's episode,
No, that's a
Mozz?
good place to end it.
Yes. Well, Mozz, if people really like this episode, or if they did not like this episode, if you have a passion about this episode that you want to raise and maybe get other people to hate watch it or love watch it, either one, we just want people to watch Willow so we get that second season. Why don't you write us an email, which we will read on the air if you like, at CapesandLunatics@gmail.com. That's CapesandLunatics, all spelled out, at gmail.com. And of course, call us at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. Then you can leave a voice message where we can hear your anger and frustration or joy and love, and people can hear that and maybe infect others as well. Please do that. That's 614-38-CAPES. Likewise, go to our show notes. Look up that link tree. That's linktr.ee/CapesandLunatics. Again, all spelled out. There you can buy all kinds of merch, t-shirts, phone cases, delightful metallic mugs that keep your hot drinks hot and your cool drinks cool all day long. And give us money via Cash App or Patreon. And then, Mozz, if people do all that but still want to connect with just you, the great one, Mozz Manzoor, how can they do so?
Oh, they can email me at mozzmanzoor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzoor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And of course, you can always write to me in the old-fashioned email way, the way our mothers and fathers once did, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. I needed a simpler email when I started this show, and I did not do that. And I think that's why I get so few emails. Likewise, you can follow me on the Twitter when I live tweet things, which I will eventually, at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the two E's in the middle.
For quality. Bing.
Thank you, Mozz. All right, you lovely little landlubbers. You have come to the end of the Shattered Sea and full stream ahead. Come with us once again as we once again sail full stream ahead. Arg.
All right.